Hello and happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. BoomStick XL. Folks, we have an outstanding 75 plus minute, two topic show for you today. Big topics, big opinions. And look, we are here to talk about it. We are on the cusp of the Xbox Developer Direct, which we are covering here at Double Barrel Gaming. I have already started to assemble the panel. It looks like we're going to have Hargi Chani. We're going to have Ham Solo. We're going to have the Welsh Gamer making his triumphant return. And we may have one or two other people that are going to be joining us. But again, everyone's going to be streaming. It is going to be a very exciting time. There are rumors to be 5 games, not 4, which has me very stoked. What those games are, no one knows at this point. But of course, there's been rumors. But here, folks, for today, we're covering 2 massive topics, one of which comes the way of Ecstasies. He is a YouTuber from Spain, phenomenal connections, gentleman of a gamer, consistently dropping knowledge bombs on a daily basis. He is connected, folks. He put out a tweet regarding a tweet that had multiple posts inside the one tweet. It says information and documents have been found regarding the Switch 2 and Xbox, and apparently they're going to be more than just friends in the coming years with an unprecedented collaboration that's secretly in the works. We're going to get into what that could possibly be. Second topic of the show, and I think that this is one that has a lot of gamers, not Xbox gamers, not PlayStation gamers, not Nintendo Switch 2 gamers. I just mean gamers across the board a bit perplexed. Culture Crave, which is one of the trades that reports on usually movie stuff. Well, they had a post the other day that I thought was so interesting, and it does shed light on the fact that there are two angles that I come at this from. One, I think it does highlight the hashtag Xbox tax in a more broader way, proving to people like, oh no, it's Alex, that it does in fact exist. And more so, I think what it does is really provide a clear picture as to how games media continues to shield PlayStation regardless of what they do. 2 games were canceled. We barely saw a tweet from any of the big publications or websites talking about it, condemning it, calling it wrong. Those studios, are they in dire? No one's doing the investigation regarding it because it's Sony. Well, they put out a post, ladies and gentlemen, that was pretty interesting. It basically says, former PlayStation Studios boss Shuhei Yoshida, who left Sony after 31 years and is an absolute gem of the industry, says fans should support remasters if they want first-party PlayStation 5 games moving forward. And he goes on to say, quote, single-player games now cost so much. They need additional income by doing remasters and porting to PC to be able to afford to do that. That was during the Kind of Funny video or games interview with Greg Miller. That was a 2-hour phenomenal interview. Great questions asked and answered by both gentlemen. I want to get into that because I think that there is something to be said about where are the questions. For the last 6 months, Mav, we have heard Xbox is dying. Xbox is going third party. Xbox is not making hardware. Xbox is mismanaged. I mean, I could just go on with the tropes. But what we're not hearing, what we're not seeing, and I don't think we are going to see until we push back against the games media industry, is ask why aren't they asking the big questions when it comes to Sony's roadmap, the way that they conduct themselves as a business, and more importantly, how long is it going to be before new games that are not already announced actually are playable? Matt, how you doing, brother? Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's been a crazy week last week with news, but this week we're gonna have a lot of fun things to talk about
Indeed.
with the Dev Direct and stuff. So looking forward to that for sure. But man, yeah, it's been crazy with PlayStation, the lack of coverage and all that. I mean, there's been a couple things here and there that people been reporting on it, but it's more just kind of matter of fact. Whereas like Xbox, everything's an opinion piece, even in a week where there's nothing bad going on with Xbox or no bad news. It's like you still have a couple articles randomly coming out that try and paint things in a bad light or a negative light. Um, then we have PlayStation have some another major shift with their studios canceling more projects, and we already have a weak roadmap of first party titles to look forward to there, and knowing that more titles are reset, going to have to pitch new projects, going to be years away for those studios to be able to deliver anything, and everything's all good.
Yeah.
Everything's all fine here. No questions to really ask. It's just like, hey, there was a games of service shift. They moved away from it. That's all there is to talk about. Nothing here. It was a good decision. They moved away from it. People didn't like it. They moved away from it. Good on them. Glad they did it. Let's move on and talk about Xbox again.
Well, listen, again, we're gonna break it down, and again, this is one of those conversations, Mav, that I enjoy having because again, it's not console war. You can have
Yeah.
you can have a negative opinion, or you can have a pointed opinion without it, reverting to or retreating to as simple culture war or console war shenanigans. And I think the big questions need to be answered and more importantly, asked. Whether those answers come the way of PlayStation, whether they come the way of former people that worked at PlayStation, we'll never know until those articles and those interviews are done. But we're going to have that conversation today, and of course, throughout the week as we get closer to Thursday's event, we'll have a couple of conversations about what are our expectations for tomorrow's Xbox Factor podcast. Of course, Wednesday evenings prime time is probably going to be something about we'll probably do some sort of a prediction show, even though we have some idea of what's going to be there. But Fuzzy Belvedere, welcome back, brother. Again, big questions, not enough answers. How you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling great. Glad to be here with you guys, man. It's an awesome time to be a gamer, as far as at least on the Xbox side of things. But pretty sure we'll get into some of the shenanigans that the Team Blue is having. Like they always, say we should demand better of Xbox, but not seeing any or many at all. Demand the same out of PlayStation. But we'll get into it. But glad we got Mav on here this afternoon, and yeah, we're gonna have either some rants or some pointed topics. So yeah, we'll get into it.
Well, I put it this way: Mav being here, a special guest. If we don't get a Mav rant, I'm going to be very disappointed as a host. I'm going to tell you that right now. So listen, Mav, let's open up with the PlayStation conversation because again, I do want to save the Switch 2 or the Xbox/Nintendo conversation for the back end of the show. Again, I'll read it verbatim. This was pulled directly from the post from Culture Crave, who again is one of the trades that reports usually on entertainment, but more so film. And they've been very busy with what's been going on with PlayStation because at the CES 2025, all we saw was TV, anime, a new car, and some film. We didn't see or hear anything about games. And first of all, we were all shocked, Mav, to know that Shuhei Yoshida was leaving PlayStation after 31 years. He wasn't retiring; he just was leaving PlayStation, and this led to a lot of speculation as to why he left. Now, he dropped some really big pieces of information regarding his thoughts and his theories of the company. When he was pressed about PlayStation VR 2.0, he laughed and basically said, let's move on, meaning that it is probably a massive black eye for PlayStation as a company. But I think where I want to start this off with is I don't mind criticizing Xbox when the criticism is worthy of the conversation, right? Unfortunately, though, when we have those conversations, people get mad because some people do not want to see that there's something wrong. And at times there has been stuff wrong at Xbox. How they market Game Pass is still not fixed. How sometimes they step on rakes by speaking out of turn. Sometimes they're too forward with their thinking, and that happens in business. But I think one of the things that we can admit is for at least the last 2+ years, and I guess I'm going all the way back to 2023 on this, folks. Xbox has been delivering on the games front. Now, maybe the services like cloud isn't 4K yet; they're working on it. Maybe you wanted, like myself, wanted an Xbox handheld, but that's coming next year apparently. For this year, everything that you have, regardless of whether it is a Lenovo, whether it is a ROG, whether it is a Steam Deck, by the end of the year, it's going to run and look like an Xbox. Where, of course, this whole conversation of this is an Xbox came from, and a lot of people didn't like that as well. But if there's one thing that has been told to us by games media, and more so the PlayStation community, it's all about the games, ladies and gentlemen. It's the games that matter, right? It's supposed to be about the games, not film, not TV, not anime, and certainly not automobiles. Well, Xbox has been delivering games. Now, 2022 was a flat year for them. We all know that. But if you go to 2023, Mav, they had a bomb of a year. And I mean a bomb in a good way. Then 2024 comes along, and maybe not every game is for you, but they released a plethora of games across numerous genres, which is why Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Game Studios is, in my opinion, the clear leader when it comes to that. It's offering experiences across a multitude of platforms, and I think that's incredibly important, especially for a service like Game Pass, because you might be a dude bro shooter, but maybe you used to play RTS games back in the days, and you play something on there, you're like, whoa, wait a second. I didn't know that this was Xbox owned, and I'm enjoying this. And that happens. You love RTSs, and that's a great genre. Not so much for me, but a lot of people dig it. So where I'm going with this, why I'm been so long-winded to bring it finally back around to PlayStation, is it's about the games, isn't it? And they have not been delivering in the games department for a couple of years now. As a matter of fact, they have really taken a step back of what you would expect a market leader to look and act like. And this can go all the way back to 2023, where they cut their produced shows down to practically nothing. Every time they did have an event, it was lackluster at best. We've been hearing about the super secret show that was happening for the last 36 months. Still nothing. The best thing that they have going for them is Ghost of Yotai this year, and that game looks amazing, but it's one title. And of course, you know what? I forgot. Baby Steps. That is going to be Game of the Year 2025 at the Game Awards. There's no doubt about it. I jest, folks. But I just want to read Shuhei Yoshida's commentary. And I think there is a lot to unpack here. And I think that the games media, if this was Xbox, there would be 5 articles from everybody under the sun about how terrible this is. And this is terrible, folks. They basically, what Shuhei Yoshida is saying is that if you want new games, you have to support PlayStation by buying remasters. I think that is a terrible precedent. I don't even understand. I can't believe he actually said that publicly. Like, that may be an internal memo. Hey, we got to sell more remasters to be able to afford X game. But to put that out in the ether, that to me is wild. Now, maybe he did that because he's on his way out the door, but I think that logic is not good. And I think that the games media has a responsibility to report on the news the same way that if this was Xbox, Mav, they would have shred them to pieces. They would have started quoting mismanagement that have been calling for Sarah's job, for Phil's job, for Matt Booty's job. And what we've seen is literally nothing pushing back against this. I want to get your hot take on it.
Yeah, I mean those comments specifically were pretty crazy because it goes down to like think back all the way to when we found out that Factions was canceled and the reasoning why. Like Naughty Dog doesn't want to transition into a multiplayer studio. Like we can't do both. So if we do this, it's just going to be that we're going to lose our identity and just become this multiplayer games of service, live service studio. And that's all we can do. Right. Well, like if that was Microsoft on the other side, right? They hire support studios, they expand the studio, they do more things so that way they can do both. As we've seen with Xbox with all the studios that have been acquiring, they're expanding to multiple projects. They support them with support studios and all these other kind of things. Well, what we find out is PlayStation ain't got that money. And they don't know how to do those kinds of games, right? So that they had started doing all these games of service games and all this other kind of stuff, and it's like, well, crap. Well, we can't do both. We asked all of our studios to start doing this, and well, it's going to take us longer than we thought, and our development is in development hell, and we can't do our single player games either because all of our other games are tied up in these games of all of our developers are tied up in these never ending horrible projects that we greenlit. So they started transitioning away, started canceling as going back to like a year and a half ago or so, where they canceled what 6 of the 12, and then now 2 more, right?
Yep.
Well, I mean, Concord actually launched, but it was posthumously canceled. I mean,
11
it
days
was
later.
yeah,
It's probably, Mav, to not to kind of rip off the band-aid here, but I think it's safe to admit that it's probably one of the worst launches in modern gaming history, going all the way back to when ET came out on the 2600. That's how bad that launch was.
oh, I mean, it's probably is the worst launch in gaming history with the amount of costs that went into it versus how long it lasted and the players that they were able to get to even try the game.
They sold
Definitely,
25,000 copies across Steam and PlayStation 5. Think about that
yeah,
for a second, folks.
that's a disaster
Yeah.
of epic proportions. Like, game was thought to be their next major franchise, like their Star Wars. It's just crazy when you think about it. And what I think it was Grub that said is that these other 2 games were canceled also as a result of what happened with Concord, right? That they went through and were like, okay, these other games that we got, like which ones we're gonna reassess everything, and then they got to those 2, and it's like, no, we're canceling them. So it gets to the point of so where are we at with PlayStation's roadmap and pipeline, right? We have some games that we know we're coming to look forward to. Ghost of Yotei, Wolverine will be 2026. They're still publishing Death Stranding 2, even though that'll end up being a timed exclusive like the first one was.
Yep.
Um, so we're left with this, okay, turnaround projects, remasters and remakes, right? And PC ports. Spider-Man 2 happening again to PC now. More remakes and PC ports on the horizon as well. Will definitely be a thing. I mean, they even remade Until Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're really reaching for the barrel here. I'm just saying, like, what's the purpose of even remaking or remastering that game? Like, it would look, it was fine. It looked
It's probably
fine.
one of the best looking PlayStation 4 games, right there with the Order 1886, which again, a lot of people overlook. Those games are gorgeous. I get it where they wanted to kind of get a couple of sales, but they were selling that game at full boat. That wasn't even like a discounted title.
Yeah,
They could have easily said, "Hey, listen, we're going to remaster this. We're going to add some, some Ks to the visuals, and $10. Pay $10 for the upgrade." People would have lined up because that game is a phenomenal game. I don't know if you've played it, and maybe a lot of people don't play horror and they skipped it, but Until Dawn is a phenomenal experience. And again, this is one of those rake stepping moments that what I was referring to. This is them overreaching, like you just said, or overextending. And in my opinion, Mav, and I'm going to give the mic back right back to you, is abusing the goodwill of PlayStation gamers.
yeah. That one they take a page out of Nintendo. Right? I think they see, okay, Donkey Kong Country Returns 8 sell it again $60. They can do that. Well, we can do these kind of things too, right? Which is Nintendo always gets away with this stuff too, which is crazy. But besides that fact, um, yeah, they need this money. Like Shuhei he had no reason not to be candid now, right? And he when he was doing his interview, and he was like, if if gamers want these more games with these IPs, and they want more new big franchises, you better buy the remakes and remasters and the PC versions also, right? So they want you to double dip too. Think about that. Like on Xbox, you buy the game, you get free updates, next gen updates, you get dual entitlement, on PC and console. You get to play it in the cloud also, like all these different things, right? For the first party lineup. And PlayStation is like, no, we want you to buy the game once. We want you to buy it a couple years later when we remaster it. Then we want to buy you to buy it again a few years after that when we remake it. But also in the meantime, at some point within probably around a year and a half after launch, or maybe even sooner, we're going to make a PC version. And if you want the best version possible, then you're going to go buy that. It's like that's how they're maximizing their franchises. Oh, then we'll make a movie based on it. Then we'll make a show based on it, even if it's something that's warranted or not, right? Because we're maximizing the value of our IP. That's just basically what Sony is doing now. Now it comes to, like you said, the detriment of the gamers because they sold gamers on those tentpole franchises. This is the reason why to go buy a PlayStation. This is the reason why you need one because we make these massive tentpole games that nobody else can make. Right? We are the ones that determine when the generation starts. We are the ones that know how to do things right in gaming. They get the experiences you can't get anywhere else. But they didn't tell anybody, oh, you might only get maybe one a year. We're going to fill it in with the rest. It's going to be remasters and remakes, third-party deals, second-party deals, all these other kind of things that, oh, yeah, the competition used to do that. They used to get criticized for it, right? But you know what? Times have changed. We're doing it now. We know the right way to do it. So we're going to make Silent Hill 2 exclusive. We're going to go and get the publishing rights to a game called Stellar Blade. We're going to go ahead and do a deal for Rise of the Ronin and make sure that that one's exclusive. Hey, we'll slide some money into the table for Black Myth Wukong. Make sure that they develop first for PlayStation and ignore even optimizing for Xbox. That way they can't release it. And we're just going to keep doing that. We're going to get our games. People don't care anymore. They just care about exclusives. But what we won't tell you is, oh, yeah, those are probably all going to be timed exclusives. Just like the Xbox games that are going to PlayStation. Yeah, because those are just deals we're making with companies. Those are probably going to Xbox too, but we're not going to allow them to say it. Sign on the dotted line. Can't say this. Instead, you get your one true exclusive, maybe a year, and the big tentpole franchise that we have. But don't worry. Also, for you PC players, it'll come probably 6 months to a year and a half later, somewhere in between there. So it's not anymore, right? But we're still going to sell the brand identity of the PlayStation being the best place to play these games. It's really funny how they can trick the mindset of everybody to how they are doing something different than everybody else, right? Whereas you see the moving in the same direction, like Xbox was last generation. It seems like they're kind of more so in that place, moving forward, trying to figure out how to get their games in more people's hands. And Games Media doesn't touch on it, man. Games Media killed Xbox for delivering a few games in 2022, right? They had Pentiment, they had Grounded 1.0, they had As Dusk Falls, they had exclusives like High on Life, things like that. They got absolutely crucified, right? Well, in a year of 2024 where they only pretty much PlayStation had pretty much one or two first party games and then was filled in with third party deals. Absolutely great year for PlayStation.
Yep.
Celebrate it. What an amazing, great year for PlayStation. Oh, we only have maybe one or two games to look forward to next year. Oh, it doesn't matter. They had Astrobot.
Game of the year.
Yeah, they had Astrobot. We're good.
Yes.
They had a bad year. What do you mean? Astrobot. But what they don't tell anybody is the gamers don't play those games. Like, I think Astrobot sold maybe 2.5 million copies or whatever, right? Which is fine. I'm not trying to knock it for that, but that's not why the brand is popular, is because of Astrobot. It's just the de facto casual box. And that's why people ignore all this other stuff about the gaming news, about the cancellation of games, about the live service games moving away, other projects getting started, and all this other kind of stuff. The real reason, just be honest, they don't care because they don't care about the PlayStation exclusive games in the first place. It's not why they buy a PlayStation.
No, only the hardcore like us do. People in the chat, we got over 525 people watching. We're hardcore gamers, so we own multiple platforms and we look for these exclusives. But the people, the gamers that Mav are talking about, are 85% of sales from PlayStation 5 are the casual market. And I'm saying 85%, you think, well, that's kind of high. It's actually not. As hardcore, minority, because that's what we are. Hardcore are the minority. We're not the majority. Maybe years ago, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, hardcore was the loudest and probably equated for a bunch, maybe even more than half. But casual audience is buying the PS5. Why? Well, they probably grew up with a PlayStation 4 or 3. And more importantly, it's the most popular console, which means it's the cool console. Are they right in saying so? Well, I mean, again, that's an opinion. But the truth of the matter is that PlayStation is one of the most recognizable brands in gaming. I mean, that's just a fact. They're up there with the GTAs. When you say GTA or Madden, people are like they look. When you say PlayStation, it's like when I was growing up. When I was playing on my Master System, my mom would tell me, "Get off your Nintendo already. Go do your schoolwork, kid." Right? That's just what it was because Nintendo was the Nintendo. But PlayStation is the most popular brand for a multitude of reasons, and they've earned that position, folks. They have earned it. They've had unbelievable records being broken left, right, and center with their consoles. That's not a mistake. They're in first place for a reason. But do they belong there anymore is the question, Mav. And I don't know if we're going to get that answer.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I have hope for Intergalactic when it hits.
Looks
I
great.
think Ghosts of Yotei is probably going to be great. But like looking for one big game a year from the tentpole first party studios is just not. I don't know. It pales in comparison to what Xbox is doing, or even what Nintendo's going to do. Right? Like I don't see how you can ask people to spend so much money in the ecosystem buying these expensive boxes and using your brand identity of your amazing franchises that you can only get on PlayStation, but you're only giving people maybe one a year. And it used to be a criticism of Xbox not having enough, a criticism of Xbox relying on third party and second party deals, and now it's become an accepted thing with PlayStation because less is more is actually words that have been used. It's about the quality, not the quantity. Let me tell you, Xbox is going to be delivering both. They already have been. The second half of 2024, we were loaded with good games. Really good games. And like you said, Boom, a multitude of genres and variety. Now, some of them you may overlook some, right? Because they aren't necessarily for you, but they're for somebody, right? And more of that's happening in 2025 with lots of variety in the genres, lots of variety in the kinds of games we're getting, but all year long. I mean, we're about to have another showcase.
Yep.
We know the issues going on at Sony because they refuse to give us showcases, man. We went
Yep.
another year last year without an actual showcase. Like, how can anybody be like, oh yeah, the PlayStation's doing great, but yet they refuse to even have a show where they actually talk about their games? They have their state of plays and stuff, but that's like a lot of third party stuff, a lot of random little things. Like Xbox had Gamescom, TGS, Summer Game Showcase, Developer Direct, and also a couple of partnership shows mixed in there in between.
Yep.
Talking about new games coming to the platform. Meanwhile, people say Xbox is dead when they're the only ones actually out there revealing games for the platform.
Yep.
PlayStation's like, well, we can maybe find a one to put at this thing. Maybe we'll at Keeley's we'll give them something. Well, Intergalactic, yeah, we're finally ready to reveal that. What year? I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know what year. Maybe 2026, maybe 2027. I guess. I don't know. We got to see how it's doing. We got to see how soon we can get their live service game team dissolved and move them into a first party or single player game team. I don't know. It's just like crazy what's been going on there behind the scenes, and it gets just like glossed over and overlooked. Imagine if Xbox shifted almost their entire development prowess into going one direction, and in the middle of a generation said, oops, never mind, we're gonna restart it all over again. Like that's basically what happened. Like that's really what happened. And it's like, oh, it's probably for the best. This was a good move by PlayStation. I'm glad that they did that. How about you talk about the fact that they fucked up so bad? Somebody, anybody, just talk about the fact of what happened. How did they allow this to happen? How did they allow the mismanagement to take place for all of these years? Jim Ryan saw the shit hitting the fan, and he hit the road. He was like, I screwed up.
He got the F out of Dodge. What happened?
Do? Oh my God. We had our first showcase in years, and everybody hated it. Everybody hated my games. They said it was the worst showcase ever in PlayStation history, and this was my show. I suck. Oh, we got to cancel 6 of these games, and then I'm going to get out of here. Oh, wait, we'll leave Concord because Herman loves that one. Oh, yeah, that one's still going to be great. Concord, Herman loves it.
It's his Star Wars. It's PlayStation Star Wars.
But secretly, my name's Jim Ryan, and I know Concord's going to suck, so I'm getting the heck out of here, right? So I bail. Watch from the sidelines. Concord launches. Whoops. I guess we should have actually canceled that one too when we canceled the other 6 of them suckers, right? Well, we'll see what happens in the future. I'm glad I got out while I could. Herman, good luck, buddy. Hiroki Totoki, fix this. Shuhei, retire. Bye. Yeah, I should have listened to you when you were here, man. I'm sorry I demoted you. My bad.
Demoted him to the basement.
I should have listened. Sorry, Shuhei. Man, it's chaos, dude. Chaos.
Look, I'll say this. I get it. Gaming's a huge business. Connections, especially for these websites, they matter, right? The click ratio keeps the lights on. But I don't think that you have to do what they did to Xbox over the last, decade, right? Just completely shit on them whenever you got an opportunity. Oh, man, we need clicks. You know what? Game Pass not making money. It's not sustainable. Colin Moriarty is the one that you were talking about regarding the, less is more. I don't need 3 or 4 games a year. Just give me one. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Not a problem. He's big media, right? That guy's got a company worth a lot of money. That's big media. I don't think, Fuzzy Belvedere, that you have to, quote unquote, pile on the rabbit. Any old school cats in the chat remember that episode with it's Bugs Bunny episode from way back in the days. Only old people know what I'm talking about, right? Don't pile on the rabbit, right? You don't have to pile on PlayStation and completely do a 180 and just shit all over PlayStation to get your point across. You can, though, do investigative journalism, which is something that you're taught in school. You're taught to ask the hard questions. And nobody in games media, and that means all of them, folks, until I start seeing, the articles from Insider Gaming and Game Rant and IGN and GameSpot and Kotaku and the rest of these rag mags that will actually get out there and ask the big questions. This just goes to show you that no matter what Sony does, they are okay. They have not done anything wrong. There's no reason to ask the questions. There's no reason for course correction. But the minute Xbox does something different, and look, I'll be the first one. I've said this before, and I will reiterate it right now. In the start of 2023, I was not a fan of them moving games over to PlayStation. When that rumor came out, I'm like, I don't like this idea, but I understand why I came from that spot. I'm an old man, and I don't like the idea of cross-pollination. But as we started, moving throughout the year, we got to 2024, and we, more games went over, and more games are going to be over, and we're going to talk about what that in the second half about what's going over to Nintendo. I had realized, and it wasn't an epiphany, folks. It's just a reality. if I don't move with the times, they're going to leave me behind. Now, granted, I still don't like it, but I understand the big business of it. And I think that if you look at what happened in 2024, as many magnificent experiences that we got as gamers across the board, I don't care what platform you're on, one of the biggest, most driving conversations that people refuse to have is how many human beings lost their jobs. How many studios were closed? How many projects were abandoned? When you abandon a project, you don't need that team. If that team isn't ready to go somewhere else, that team is gone. Okay? These are human people. These are people that make our games that we love so much. So again, I'm not saying that you should be empathetic to it. I am, because I understand that I'm very, very lucky to be in a position where I can be retired, still pay my rent, still have insurance and vision and dental, still go to the store and buy groceries and talk about gaming. I'm very fortunate. I don't do this for a paycheck. I do this for a hobby. It's a big difference for someone who's in gaming. So when you see all of these studio closures, now again, granted, these two projects that Sony canceled last week, are those studios safe? Are they going to be open or closed? Because there's a story that's going out that's floating around that they didn't find out about the studio closing the game until it made it to the press, until we were talking about that. Think about that. You're on the team at PlayStation and you learn from watching someone's podcast that your game is being shut down. Really, PlayStation? Where's the articles for that? I don't know. Fuzzy, I'm expecting a rant because I think that this is a conversation that really started with Shuhei Yoshida telling PlayStation gamers outright to their faces that if you want PlayStation new IP, you're going to have to suck it up and you're going to have to support PlayStation by remasters and rebuying on PC. That is an awful sentiment. Now, again, I think of Shuhei as a gem of this industry, and I think he was being forthcoming for sure. I don't think there was any facetiousness whatsoever. But the truth of the matter is if that is your plan, if that is Sony PlayStation's plan moving forward, could someone in the audience please tell me how long or how many of these remasters you have to buy before they start work on another new IP? That is a question that needs to be asked, and no one's asking it here. Today, we're doing that. Let's get your thoughts.
Man, okay, so let's go back in time for a little bit. There was a little game called Scalebound. I think it was unveiled in 2015, 2016. And because of some mismanagement at Platinum, it was canceled. Phil took the blame. We kind of know what happened. They took the money and used it to release other games on other platforms. And the gaming media, I would say, even to this day, every now and then you'll see an article about that game. Like, let's be real, that was over 8 years ago, and they still talk about it. But the gaming media won't talk about Concord. It's like, nope, mum's the word. It's dead and buried. Wait, no, it never happened. It never was. It was a mistake, and we erased it from history. People talk about Redfall, or the gaming media talked about Redfall, and they still talk about how Xbox mismanaged Bethesda, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? You can still play Redfall. I don't know. I'd rather have a game that you could still play. Sure, unfortunately, a part of the studio was closed that released that game, but Concord, you can't even play the game. Studios closed, and now a lot of other games that were in that same vein are being canceled. Do you not think those studios are going to be closed? Where's the articles on it? Jason Schreier, I'm looking at you because you're the one that likes to talk about Halo or 343, and Bungie's on fire even to this day, and nobody seems to say anything bad about it. Whether it's the HR issue with the guy spending the employee retention money on cars and then inviting one of the female employees to check them out, like, hey, look, isn't this cool? I got all these cars. Can we go on a date or whatever? And no, there's no stories about that. There's a page 10 type of article about the guy that that was released from the company and was under contract because he did some other HR things behind the scenes. But yeah, they brushed that under the rug. They brush a lot of that stuff under the rug because when it's Sony, it must be what's supposed to be. But when it's Xbox, like they still haven't let go the unveiling of the TV in 2013. Like, did we not just see CES 25 not like a week ago or so, or a couple of weeks ago, where we saw a Sony roadmap for movies and anime, not for games. The only thing about games that was mentioned is that, oh, we've had them for 30 years, but that's as far as it went. They talk about a car that people that are paying attention to electric cars are laughing at. It's 80 grand for the base car, and it's 5 years behind everything else that's out on the market. Whether you're looking at Tesla or Hyundai or anything, it's so far behind. It's even behind Honda, who they're partnered with, who has their own electric vehicles that were shown at that same show. Where's the Sony dominance in TV land as far as like their electronics and things? They've fallen behind Samsung years ago and LG and all the other brands. So if other forms of media see that Sony has fallen off hard in other areas and they're willing to talk about it, why is the gaming media so afraid? Is it they're afraid that they'll get their free games that they review cut off? I mean, yeah, Sony does do that. If you say anything nasty about or less than stellar about their games, you're off the list for the next review copies.
Yep.
And let's be real. That's part of the reason why there's that Xbox tax. Like, people want to say it's not real, but yet the gaming media asks for PlayStation copies over Xbox copies. They could be in an office where they have all the platforms, PC, Xbox, PlayStation. What do? They request PlayStation. Why? Because that's their preferred brand. I get it. It's the popular brand. And for the longest time, until what was it, like early PS4 time, I was on the PlayStation bandwagon. I skipped PS2 because I went to PC, but I was always holding Microsoft accountable on their PC end of things where I felt their software wasn't gaming friendly, whether you're looking at Windows ME or Vista. Looking back at it, Microsoft is usually ahead of the power curve as far as whether we need to upgrade hardware, which at the time, there was a big debate as far as how the motherboards and Intel chips were set, and they were kind of nudging them into having it where everybody has to upgrade. Looking back at it, was not the best time frame, but they were always ahead in trying to further the industry. Same thing happened in 2013. How many of us would love to own our digital games or be able to sell them or trade them or will them to your kids or whatever? That was kind of the whole thing that people were against. Yeah, the messaging wasn't the greatest. But looking back at it, we would probably kill to have those features because now we're always online anyway, and we don't get any of those benefits that we were so against the already online thing. So now with Microsoft looking at, moving beyond the console, obviously they see something that others aren't willing to either admit or may recognize at this time, much like when Microsoft was looking at the whole digital first kind of deal at the beginning of the Xbox One generation. Maybe it's that Sony now is kind of cornered themselves into a box where they have these outlandish budgets on games that now, because they charge an extra $10 over what they did the previous generation, don't sell as well. Like, we're looking at their most recent games. What is it? Astrobot was only 1.5 million copies sold. Like, I think at this point, we need to realize that maybe the extra $10 affected the market more so than us as the enthusiasts. The enthusiasts that are like, oh, I'll pay 80 or I'll pay 100. That's great. But not everybody's going to do that. It's much like with me being in the auto industry. People buy the V6s or the 4 cylinders so the ones that want the V8s can have them, because if those don't sell, they don't have the money to make the V8s. That's the way it's been for Mustangs, Camaros, and Challengers for a while. Well, actually more so the Mustang Camaros, because the Challenger was a more recent entry in 08. But all in all, you have to have it where everybody is willing to be on board and buying these games. And with Sony and Yoshida saying that you have to buy the remasters so you can get the new games, that's telling you, hey, spend more money. The same thing that we probably scoffed at Phil about when he was saying at the business update last year about how you can either monetize your existing customer base or you can find other customers to bring into your ecosystem. PlayStation is the ones that monetize their customer base. That's why you pay the extra $10 for the upgrades, whether it's visual or haptic feedback. Sure, there's costs and expense in the programming for the haptics and whatnot, but didn't you just pay $500 plus for the console that comes with the haptic controller? Like, excuse me, am I wrong? When you buy a car that comes with heated seats, do they charge you every day when it's cold outside for you to heat your butt? No. I mean, well, BMW did that, but that was mainly for people that were leasing the car as opposed to buying it outright with that feature. But they were willing to charge you an extra $10 to use something you just paid for. And there were people that were fine with it. I wasn't, because I look at it as idiocracy at that point for the fact that I bought the system. Don't charge me to use the system I just bought. Like, that's ridiculous to me. But what do I know? But in the grand scheme of things, Sony will nickel and dime their customer base more so than focus on expanding their customer base. Now they're trying to appeal to the PC crowd, and they've had their stumbles. They've had their rake moments with like things like Helldivers 2. They've definitely figured out, or F around and find out kind of deal that you can't just make it so you have to link your account or you can't access the game, or even sell the game to areas where you can't link your account. It like Sony is so far behind trying to figure out how to, attract the PC crowd that I don't know if they're ever going to really solidify how to do that and be happy with their, data metrics and things like that to be able to, either monetize those PC customers or at least keep track and tab on what appeals to them. And as we see, that window, that 6 months to a year and a half or whatever, keeps shrinking each time. Sure, some of it's for their games as a service games, but their single player games are going to wind up being closer and closer to the point where at some point they're going to wind up doing day and date. And I know there's a lot of Sony fans that push back on that. Why would they need to do that? Well, let's just look at the most recent, issues. Concord. Rumor has it it's nearly $500 million in the toilet. They had to refund the ones that they sold. They closed the studio that they purchased, which that was an amount of money, plus the money that was involved in salaries and the development costs in making the game. And then they canceled a lot of these other development, games as a service and development. All of that stuff adds up. So let's just say if it was a few $100 million on a couple of those, they're in the billions of dollars in the hole and have no way of recouping that with games that we could either, sell to, or that they could sell to us, or that we can even play and buy microtransactions or whatever. So that's a black hole of money that they just basically threw out the window. Sure, it's probably better to, close the studio or end the game at that point, but all in all, that's still lost money. And we're talking about a company that's, $100 billion company, not $1 trillion company. So losing a few billion is going to feel a little, it's going to hurt a little bit more than it would for $1 trillion company. But $1 trillion company is still going to be somewhat concerned in those matters. But when they're not even a 30th of what the other company is, it matters even more. And if they're talking about buying these remasters that you already bought the previous generation and all they're doing is a graphical update, or maybe they do that hero lighting on the characters for like Horizon Forbidden West and stuff, is it really worth the 30 or 60 or however much they're charging for it? Which in a lot of cases they're charging full bulk price. They're kind of in a pickle. And I've said it, at the beginning of this generation, I would not be surprised if Sony winds up being acquired by Apple or Amazon. I just didn't think it would have to go down this way. I just thought that more so it would be Apple or Amazon really getting aggressive and wanting to step into gaming a little bit more assertively. And then that's how it goes down. But it seems like Sony is kind of bleeding money in the gaming space, and their customer base isn't buying the copies like they used to. They're not buying the 20 million copies of God of War like they did the previous generation. They're not buying the 20 million copies or 30 million copies of Spider-Man like they did in the previous generation. You got Helldivers 2 outperforming Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? And that's a game where I'm pretty sure the budgets are like for Helldivers is probably a tenth of what it was for Spider-Man, or maybe, maybe not a tenth, but it was probably a good bit lower than what Spider-Man's was, especially considering licensing costs for Spider-Man. So they're definitely in a pickle. The fact that the gaming media is silent or looking the other way, but yet they want to focus on Xbox, where Xbox actually has a roadmap that's going to carry them for the next 3 to 5 years easy. And probably what we find in the June showcase will carry for another 2 or 3 years worth of a roadmap. Yet we still don't have a gaming roadmap from Sony. I mean, sure, yeah, Ghost of Yotai this year, maybe Wolverine, the PC exclusive right now on PS5 next year, Intergalactic maybe the year after. I don't know. It just feels like the building's on fire and the Sony fans are like, oh no, this is, I can toast marshmallows. That's why it should be burning, as opposed to saying, let's get buckets of water and put this out, or let's call the fire department to help or something. It just feels like we're just standing there and looking at this thing burn, and then we want to blame Xbox. Oh, it's the Series S's fault. What does the Series S have to do with Sony mismanagement? Like all these times that they talk about mismanagement at Xbox. Oh, the director left, or this person left. A lot of your executives have left over at PlayStation, where nobody's talking about mismanagement. Oh, it must be fine. Oh, they cancel a bunch of games. Oh, it must be fine. Oh, they can lose $500 million on a game that only lasted 8 days. Yeah, it's fine. And we're still wearing or looking forward to a showcase for like 2, maybe 3 years now, to the point where they don't even put them in showcases. They put those types of games that they would put in the showcase in state of plays. Doesn't that like kind of send a message that maybe things are awry, or I wouldn't say as desperate, but they're definitely out of sorts. But what do I know? But I've rambled enough. I'm sorry.
No. This is what we were hoping for. This is a great conversation. Yes, it went a little longer than we would have liked, but the truth of the matter is that everything that you said, Fuzzy, and everything that I said, and of course Mav with a magnificent Mav rant that he's known for, is our questions that the community is asking, and it's not just us that should be asking it. It should be the gaming media, and they refuse to even address that there's an issue. Okay, the fact that they said this, and I say is they, meaning Shuhei Yoshida, basically telling PlayStation gamers that the future of the brand is based on you supporting remasters across the PlayStation 5 and rebuying those remasters for a remaster on PC. I find that to be bullish. And again, I don't think he was being a D. Like I said, I think that Yoshida, or Shuhei Yoshida, is not only a classman of this industry, but a diamond in the industry as a whole. He is a gentleman gamer. The guy's been doing the business for a very long time. Again, what happened to him, not falling in line, was sent basically to the dungeon, where he just went from being in charge of first party for 11 plus years to then being in charge of indies. Now, granted, a lot of the indie studio games that were on PlayStation 5 as exclusives, like Stellar Blade, were due to him. He's responsible for that. And Stellar Blade, it looks like an amazing game. So he knew what he was doing. But again, he's being forthcoming. He's being honest. He's already retired. He's not retired. He's already left PlayStation. He's out the door. And this interview was very, very telling. And again, I shout out to Greg Miller at Kind of Funny for asking the tough questions, because there were some tough ones in there. Some things got answered. Some things like PlayStation VR did not. But we do got to catch up on Super Chats. And we got to get to the second half of the show, where I want to really drive the point home of what this collaboration with Nintendo could possibly be. I think you already know where I'm going with it. It's a pipe dream of mine that I've had for years, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I think that what this ultimately does for Nintendo is give them a lot of games to release, potentially all coming from Xbox. And we're going to get into that in a second. But let me just catch up on Super Chats. We've done quite a few of them. First one of the day comes the way of Sith Lord, who has dropped a very generous $2 Super Chat. Says, hey, Boom, hey, Fuzzy, and my man, Mav, happy MLK Day. Indeed, that's right. We are celebrating Martin Luther King's Day, and you should celebrate it, because a lot of great things happened That man is a legend, and he stood for a lot of important facts. He stood for people, and people of color matter, and they mattered then, and they matter even more now. And I think that celebrating him is something that we should all do, and it should not be overlooked at all. So thank you so much for the shout out, Sith Lord, and thank you for remembering Dr. Martin Luther King. We also have here JFX88, who's been a channel member for 14 months. Good to see you here, brother. Thank you so much for joining us. He says, if Nintendo and Xbox work together, I would love to see Nintendo and Rare back at it again. Yeah, the one thing about Rare, they're really weird. They do not want to return. I mean, again, I had a chance to hang out with Phil Spencer personally a couple of years ago, and they just want to do new things. They really do not want to return to any of their older IP, and it's a shame. It really, really is, because they are talented, and I'd love to see them go after and work with, again, you got to remember, Rare, they're a legendary studio. And as much as a lot of people really like Sea of Thieves, it never really was for me. I don't know if Everwild is going to be for me. It might not, and that's okay. But I would love to see a Banjo-Kazooie revival. I'd love to see a Conquer revival. There was quite a few things. Cameo, for instance, is a phenomenal Xbox 360 title that most people don't even know what I'm talking about. That game was amazing. Another Rare gem. But they want to just keep doing what they're doing, and they don't want to return to what made them Rare, and that's fine. I mean, they've grown up. A lot of people have left the studio, and they have different ideologies. That's fine. But I think that a Nintendo collaboration could be good, more specifically for a particular IP that I've been begging. Paris, I know you're listening, brother. This topic is for you. But we'll get to that in a hot second. B Martin 001 drops a very generous $10 super chat. He goes on to say, Final Fantasy 16 Shadow Drop on Wednesday. Let's go. I mean, we're going to get it soon enough. I don't know if it's going to be at the showcase. Interestingly enough, I don't know if that's first, because if we just go based on the order of things, right? We're all waiting for Final Fantasy 7 Remake. That launched years before Final Fantasy 16. And if we're just going based on just the knowledge of the timelines, I would imagine that Final Fantasy 7 Remake would launch first, because that's the one that was hidden behind this 5-year holdout contract. And then Final Fantasy 16 potentially, the following release. Now, again, I don't know if Square reworked that deal with Sony. I don't know. Supposedly, the rumor is that this year it's Final Fantasy VII Remake, and next year it's Rebirth in 26. We will definitely see. So B Martin 001 drops an additional $2 from chat and says, my bad, he meant Thursday. And I thought that's what you meant anyway. But hey, man, you never know. Shadow drops happen all the time. Why not do it the day before the event to get everyone excited? That's a good point. Razor Ultron drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, hey, Fuzzy, fly, Eagles, fly, go Birds, hi, Mav, LOL. Yeah, they look good yesterday. They they may make it to the Super Bowl. We will see. It's going to be a very interesting NFC Championship game for sure. Our very good friend, Will the Insider, Broke Boy Lewis, drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Until Dawn was remastered to promote the movie. There's no doubt about it. The only problem with the movie is that it's going to be totally different from what we understand. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to have any of the same plot, which I guess is good, because then you would know what was happening. But we'll see. I mean, again, it's going to be a horror film. I know that Fuzzy is excited for it. I am as well. That's a great IP. Demon Time Reezy drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says, roses are red, violets are blue. PlayStation got remasters just for you. Oh my goodness. Could you in a house, could you play remasters with a mouse? Well, hopefully not, because you might get bit, but you know what? I mean, listen, I love it. Dr. Seuss making an appearance here. That's good stuff right there, brother. Thank you for the generosity. Reezy, great to see you here as always. Silent Cypher, folks. He has gifted 5 double-barreled gaming memberships. Silent Cypher, thank you so much for that. One half of course, well, one part of Breakfast with Boom, which he'll be back this week, I believe. And this week, we are going to have a special guest join us to open the show and close the show. That's right. Tyler, my nephew, is going to be opening Breakfast with Boom and closing Breakfast with Boom as he's learning the business, because like his Theo, he wants to be a podcaster. I hope he has bigger aspirations than that, but again, that's what he wants to do, we're gonna support him. He might get into broadcast news, who knows? But he's gonna open and close the show on Friday morning, and I'm gonna go see Sonic 3 with him on Wednesday. Very excited to see that. That film got great reviews, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. But let's see. Smitty Smith, who's been a channel member for 57 months, brother, that is incredibly kind of you. The generosity is unbelievable. He says Shuhei was like, "Oh, word, y'all just gonna demote me like that? I don't matter. But bet. Just wait until I leave. Hashtag the Book of X." And maybe that's why he was so froggy. Because obvious. Look, what happened to Shuhei, he may not admit it publicly, was wrong. But that's Sony, and that's how they do their business. He is an old school cat. He probably did not want to deviate from what made PlayStation famous. That is their story-driven, single-player, focused, adult-themed type of games, right? That's what made PlayStation what it was from the PlayStation 3 on, right? And it started with games like The Last of Us. Again, all of those old school cats, they're gone. The new people are running the business, and Herman Holtz. I think Herman Holtz is at the center of why they're having so much trouble. He is in love with Horizon, the brand, but most people aren't. And he keeps trying to drive that brand, and ultimately, I think he's bringing down the business, because Horizon 1 was phenomenally great. Horizon 2, lots of development problems. I did not enjoy it. I hated the way they took the direction they took Aloy. She became a bit of an a-hole instead of an Aloy. I did not like it at all, and I didn't finish it. Horizon Lego, did they really need it? I don't think so, but that didn't do very well for them. That's another flop. And then, of course, now you have a film coming out. I don't know how much longer he can keep pushing Horizon and not get fired. Because you got to remember, he was the same guy that said that Concord was their Star Wars. He literally said that. And, there was something with Amazon where there is a Concord episode, but there's no Concord game. Again, it's a really, really, really bad look. So thank you so much for the outstanding support, Smitty. Jay Rambert, who's been a channel member for 2 months, brother. Thank you so much. He says TTS Fuzzy hitting on all cylinders. Hashtag pause. Silent Cypher drops an additional, very generous $5 super chat and says, buy our remasters if you want new games. Is Sony's get a second job to afford our console this generation. They are out of touch and deserve smoke. Yes, they do. And that's a great point. I didn't even correlate those two together, but that is kind of what it is. If you want new games, buy our old shit, because that's really what it comes down to. Nino Vistic, our generous friend all the way from Hawaii, has done it again, ladies and gentlemen. He has gifted one Double Barrel Gaming membership. Thank you so much for the outstanding support, brother. Aloha to you and the family. Smitty Smith drops an additional $5 super chat. And Fuzzy, he says this: Fuzzy just delivered the politest ass kicking I've ever heard in my entire life. Hashtag the Book of X TTS. And you know what? That was again 2 rants that I think were needed, but they were done, as you would expect, in a classy, very well pointed way. BT Maverick 707, welcome, brother. Great to see you here. He drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, all of these cancellations of PlayStation 5 games only means less games over the next 3 years. These studios have to regroup and pitch their next move or their next game to Herman Holtz. And you see, that's a phenomenal point. I think we did all kind of like touch on it, but I don't think anyone actually drove it home.
Yeah, pitch him a Horizon game. He'll greenlight it right away.
Of course he will.
Yeah.
No, I think ultimately the problem is this. these studios, if so, let's try and make sense of this, right? How many games have been stopped? Quite a bit. They pivoted from single player to multiplayer, and that failed. Of the 12 games announced, or the announced 12 games, I should say, 8 have been canceled. Right? That's 8 teams that have to readjust from going from you're not going to cut and paste this, ladies and gentlemen. You don't right click on game A and just move it over to single player. That's not the way development works. So if they don't have games now, because PlayStation 5 has no games, that's the running that should be the running tagline, because they don't. Outside of the few that they have locked behind paywalls, which that window is starting to close because their people on their own platforms are not buying the games. You know, you were very generous. You said that Astrobot sold 2.5 million. I can't find that, Mav. The only story that I find is 1.5, and that was reported
I'm just estimating.
Right, and you did a guesstimate. Here's the thing: they did sell a little bit more right after the Game Awards, but I don't even think they. And again, you're being generous, and I appreciate that. We can't even guesstimate that they sold 2 million. And you know what? Ultimately, that's gross, because that game is freaking phenomenal. I loved every second of that game. It is a triumph. It really, really is. But nobody gives a shit, Matt. And that's the truth. That's just what it is. And unfortunately, these teams that have now went from single player to multiplayer back to single player have to readjust. And that readjustment takes years off of development time. You have to literally shift your entire development process from one genre to another, back to an old one. And you have to then correlate all of those changes into what you're going to do. Folks, you may not get massive new IP for 5 years. This may be a situation where they launch the PlayStation 6, if there's going to be one, with a bunch of new games, because that's how long it's going to take before you get anything. That is a real problem, and it's something that the games media refuses to acknowledge exists. It's crazy. But listen, let me get the last super chat here. Silent Cypher drops an additional very generous $5 super chat and says, Herman out here pushing so hard for gaming NyQuil's Horizon Forbidden Nap. He's got the Kaz Harai Ridge Racer energy. No one cares, Herman. And if you don't know what he's talking about, that was during the PlayStation 3 Ridge Racer. Yeah, I mean, listen, Ridge Racer was really good, but come on, let's call a spade a spade. It's just, it is what it is. Look, Matt, let's go right back to you, brother. Again, apologies that the show it's going to go a little bit longer than we anticipated. This isn't the biggest topic, but it is one that is worthy of a conversation. Now, Ecstasies, like I said in the opening, is a YouTuber from Spain. I can tell you for an absolute fact that I know he's connected. He has a lot of big connections in the industry, and he has some with Redmond, meaning Xbox. So he put out a post the other day where he has the Switch 2 logo and behind it the Xbox logo. And in it, he says that there are some details that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks of this magical collaboration between Xbox and the Nintendo that change everything. It basically says multiple news, information, and documents where he claims that the Nintendo Switch 2 and Xbox are going to be more than friends in the coming years with an unprecedented collaboration. Now, Mav, this is one of those topics where, what is the collaboration? Is the collaboration them putting games on the Switch? Well, it could be as simple as that, but it could also be something like Master Chief showing up in Mario Kart, right? That's a possibility. It could be, and again, I'm always going to keep pushing for this, even if I know I'm going to lose, and that goes to show you how much of a fan I am. I said this years ago. I said it would be amazing if there was a collaboration between Nintendo and Xbox to let Nintendo bring us a new Banjo-Kazooie. Let one of their Mario teams take on the IP and it would be a dual launch, a dual release on both Xbox, whenever, Xbox Series XS, or the new one in 26, and the Switch 2 and whatever. Is that what he's talking about? Well, my heart certainly hopes so. Do I think that's likely? No. But of course, I got to put it out to the ether. This collaboration, Mav, it could be as simple or simplistic as, hey, Indiana Jones is going to go, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going to go, you're probably going to get Diablo 4 on there. You're going to get a bunch of other games because the Nintendo Switch 2 may not be the most innovative of designs for a lot of people. I think it's exactly what I wanted. It's fine. It's Nintendo. They're going to work their magic. I think it's going to be powerful enough to run some of these games at lower res, of course. But what do you personally think that this collaboration could be? Because again, Ecstasies has been talking about it. This isn't the only thing that he wrote up. He wrote up about 3 other posts that I will, reference as we continue this conversation. But Nintendo has always been good with Xbox, and Xbox has been good with Nintendo. What could this be, Mav?
Yeah, it's interesting to use the word collaboration because usually a word collaboration means something both ways, right? Like
Yes.
so but that could be as far as it could go towards marketing where you have like a more of a presence of like Xbox is here on the Switch or something like that during like one of the presentations of a direct, right? Uh to kind of help promote the Xbox brand as they're putting games on your platform still in a way. So I'm trying to think of what it could be. There's a million possibilities. I think the foregone conclusions are like you said, like the Diablo is gonna go there. I think Doom: The Dark Ages could end up being playable on the Switch too. I think Indiana Jones will end up going there potentially. That one's the one that's like kind of because that's a next gen only game, right? But like Doom is always something that can run on like anything usually. So I don't know if they're even if it's next gen only, if they're able to still get it on a Switch or not. Call of Duty, obviously, Diablo 4, obviously, right? And there will be other games. I think last generation games, right? That will be ported there for the first time. Some of the more popular games. You could end up seeing still something like Sea of Thieves go now, or you could see something like Hi-Fi Rush. I think they will have a big presence of game releases on the Switch too because they see it as just another place to put some of their older franchises and games to make more money to help keep funding development on new projects and all that kind of stuff. So, um, which games I don't know. Master Chief Collection's been floated around that could end up being a thing, but also like you said, like seeing Master Chief in like a Mario Kart or something like that, that'd be pretty crazy. And that'd also be good for Xbox's brand, right? If they end up doing something like that, because just like when Master Chief showed up in Fortnite, you get you get your big characters in front of all these different eyes. They can kind of become fans or interested and learn more or know about the characters and stuff. So we'll see what eventually it entails. I mean, there's definitely gonna be more, Xbox games on the Switch than ever before, right? Because of the capabilities of the Switch 2 will be a little bit better. Um, but yeah, I think generally Nintendo will be more likely to put a character in one of their franchises or one of their games if their game's on the Switch. Right, I don't think they wanna take characters that are have never been on a Switch or don't have anything to do with the Switch or Nintendo and put them into their games. So, having games that are kind of, "Hey, we're here, we're a big presence, we're going to continue to be on this platform and on this device," they're more willing to, um, inject them into their like Smash Bros. Or, uh Mario Kart or whatever, right? So, we'll see, man. It's interesting to think about what it could be. The part of me also wonders about the cloud and Nintendo's capabilities with that right now because may what if there's some kind of a thing to where they allow other gaming subscriptions on their platform? Like, let's say they allow Ubisoft Plus, right? Let's say they allow EA Play, right? as those games are going more there, we just heard Ubisoft has like 6 to 8 games that they're planning on launching on the Switch too. So what if you have like these gaming subscriptions, even if it's like the classic collection subscriptions, the cheaper ones? What if you have like a version of like a Game Pass on there that includes like some of these franchises from Xbox, but also maybe allows you to stream your library from the cloud or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah,
It
good points.
just a thought, like, I know we know from the past that, like, it was a dream for them to get Game Pass on the Switch. I mean, that pretty much Phil Spencer said that, but he said that's like a one-way street, like, Nintendo something that they didn't see that Nintendo would be interested in, like, we saw that during an email exchange that was leaked, right?
Yep.
So maybe they could work something out to where, hey, we're giving you all these games that are going to be going there. Like, what if we have a subscription service that we can offer on your platform in some form or fashion? Just a thought. That would be some way of doing a collaboration.
I mean, it's a great point. I don't know if we would ever see Xbox Game Pass on there. Maybe you would see. Maybe you're right. Maybe that you could see XCloud on there. Who knows at this point?
Yeah. If it doesn't take away from purchasing games directly on the Switch, I would say
Correct.
that maybe be more likely, right?
I mean, listen, when you say collaboration, I think that it's something, and again, this is a rumor, folks, that this isn't like Nintendo saying we're doing a collaboration or Xbox is saying that we're doing a collaboration. We know that you're going to be putting Xbox is going to be putting games onto Switch. They're doing exactly what they're doing with Sony. They're in it to make money. Every time they sell a game on PlayStation or Nintendo Switch, it goes into the coffers, and it's more investment in new IP. It's a new investment in Xbox Game Pass. It's new investment on what they're going to do for hardware. So them going to quote unquote third party, even though a lot of us old timers don't really like it, I think all of us have come to understand that it is the better part of big business. And ultimately, like I've said this before, and I will say it again, Fuzzy Belvedere, as long as something isn't being taken from me to go somewhere else and I have to wait for it, like if they were going to release a game on PlayStation as an exclusive, which would never happen, and it wouldn't come to Game Pass for a year, then that's when I go get my torches and pitchforks. Because then at that point, I'm losing as a customer. But what they're ultimately doing is we are getting in Game Pass. That is, and I've said this for years, is the exclusive. I pay $20 a month, or well, again, not really, but even if you did pay the $20 a month, you're still winning, especially if you look at what you've had in the service the last couple of years. There's no denying that the value proposition is in Xbox's corner. It just is, and again, with the story that we're going to talk about potentially tomorrow about these $100 games, and you have an analyst saying, "Oh, it'd be great for the industry for." Reset the industry to charge $100. Sure, for the millionaires that already have millions, no thanks. I'm not giving $100 a game. And I think ultimately, if that ever happens, where you see games go to $80, $90, $100 for a regular release, not even a collector's edition, this is where Game Pass is really going to drive the point home of you should be playing over here because all of our first party stuff is great. And then at that point, do you, as a consumer, justify $100 price point for GTA 6? I mean, I don't, that's for sure. And that's something that if it's $100, I don't know if I can actually buy that day one. Like, I think that if you do, you are literally bending the knee for these companies to be like, hey, listen, it's GTA 6. You know it's going to be good, $100. Because what's the next time? But we're going to get into that tomorrow. I want to kind of just bring it back around to this collaboration. Again, it's a smaller topic. The first opening topic was phenomenal. I very much enjoyed the rants. I enjoyed the chat talking about what's actually going on, having a conversation without being pointed and insulting, which is great. This is what this chat is all about. What do you think, Fuzzy, this quote unquote collaboration could be?
It could go in two directions, and I like Mav's idea as far as like something like Game Pass. Like I could see a curated version, like their first party studio only version, or like an Xbox Game Pass core, type of deal or something. Especially considering like things like the Quest. Like I just picked up the Quest 3. and you can do the xCloud streaming on that. If you could do the xCloud streaming on like the Nintendo Switch, that's your portable Xbox if you don't want to step up to like the PC handhelds. So that I could see being a thing. Considering other avenues or other places have allowed xCloud as far as on their device, I could see that being a possibility. That I would love to see. Might convince me more to pick up a Switch. Not the biggest Nintendo guy, but I guess the other direction I could see it going, and this is something I hope happens, although I know you would really like to see like a Banjo-Kazooie kind of thing, but at this point they have Crash, they have Spyro. Why not do like what Ubisoft did with like Rayman and have some sort of collab with Mario? It's on both, have it where it's on both systems, or maybe it's a multi-plat, on every system out there, PC, PlayStation, Switch, Xbox. Have it where you get Mario in a game on an Xbox, and it not be just a full Mario game. It might be Mario and Crash, or Mario and Spyro, or something along those lines. I know Crash is probably not in the same league as Mario, but it hopefully could be something along those lines. Or like you said, like Banjo-Kazooie. It would be cool to have them, if they're the ones making it and it winds up on both platforms. I think that would be a cool family centric type game that you could have. That's a platformer on the ecosystem. It would definitely be worthwhile. Sure, it'd be nice if it was an exclusive, but at this point, getting that family friendly platformer on Xbox would be pretty cool. They don't have Toys for Bob, although they are working with Toys for Bob on upcoming projects. So we'll see if that's another Spyro or if it's another Crash down the road. But yeah, anything with Nintendo at this point, even if it's a lopsided two-way street, because the one-way street stuff, I'm not the biggest fan of, but even if it just winds up being like, Banjo-Kazooie or something like that, that would be cool. But I really like the idea of xCloud on the Switch. That would actually put it on my to buy list this year.
Listen, again, it would be a move that none of us could have thought would have happened. But at some point, maybe this deal, because remember, there were rumors of Xbox Game Pass going to Nintendo, right? And of course, those were debunked. Maybe not getting Game Pass on there opened the door for xCloud potentially getting in there. Again, they're going to do some different things. When I hear collaboration, and again, this is just a rumor, folks, it means a little bit more than simply just porting your games. That's just porting your games. I don't know if that's a collaboration, because I wouldn't call the games from Xbox going to PlayStation a collaboration. I wouldn't call it that. And I don't think that's what he means here. I think that it might be a little bit more. The question is exactly what it is. Well, we don't know. We're going to find out, I would imagine, soon enough. But look, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. Again, that was the smaller topic of the show. I want to thank Mav and Fuzzy for hanging out with me here today. We went a little bit longer than normally. It's around 75 minutes. We're almost at the 90-minute mark. Hopefully you enjoyed the show enough to hit the like button. Again, stay tuned to all of our channels, because this week is going to be big for Xbox and Xbox coverage. And I would imagine that there is going to be a triumphant PM into PM Thursday evening outside of Mav, you covering the show on Thursday. It's going to be a lot to get into. Some big surprises are expected. Let me just catch up on Super Chats, and then we'll get everyone on out of here. We are caught up on Super Chats. A big thank you to all of the channel member chats, as well as the Super Chats and the new channel members. Thanks to several of the generous people here in the community. Mav, let's tell your brand, brother. Where could people check out one of the best one-man shows known as Mavcasts? And really, they're just rants, but they are phenomenal. You did one on Saturday, unusually, but it was really good. And just like today, you dropped a lot of bombs. Where could people subscribe to your YouTube channel, but more importantly, follow you on social media?
Yeah, man, I appreciate the invite, Boom. Love being here when I can, whenever I get the invite. And you guys want to check out what we got going on, just on Twitter, Fun Speculation. Everywhere else, also Fun Speculation on YouTube. And we do have a show tonight, FSP, which is me and Fuzzy here, and 3-Bit, and maybe the return of Jasper might be back again tonight on FSP. So on that show, we kind of take a look at the games coming up for the week, and then also talk about whatever else is going on. But have fun on that. Thursdays, we got PM in the PM, which is Pong Soul and I at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But also on Thursday, we'll be co-streaming the Dev Direct. So if you want to come either watch us, cool. Hey, come hang out here with Boom. You'll be having a blast also on this channel. So anybody that wants to hang out, appreciate that. And then Friday over on Xbox Ultimate Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're going to have a blast, get all the family together. Lots of laughs, lots of fun. And like Boom said, occasionally, for whatever reason, I just say, hey, screw it. I'm just going to go live and do a Mavcast and get some stuff off my chest. And that was Saturday this week. So tune into those. We have fun. I just kind of more interact with the chat and kind of hang out and stuff. But yeah, it's a fun show, guys. And thanks for having me, Boom.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Super appreciate the rant. Love the work that you're doing, folks. I'm here to tell you that he's definitely one of the best one-man acts in the business. He gets on the mic and he just goes. He interacts with the community. I'd say that you have an equal. Dirt Crickety is another incredible podcaster. I don't know how you guys do it. To be on a microphone for over an hour would kill my voice, but somehow or another you get it done, and we definitely appreciate the work that goes into that. And let's bring in Fuzzy. Fuzzy, let's talk about where people can not only subscribe to your YouTube channel, which of course is the best place for anything and everything. We also have a podcast that you started with the missus called Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday evenings, where it's a podcast about horror. Sell the brand for both of you, and more importantly, where can they follow you guys on social media?
As always, love doing this on Monday afternoons with you, Boom, and always a great time when we have Mav on here as a special guest. Love doing podcasts with him, like part of the family. Look forward to doing a podcast later on tonight, FSP on Mav's channel, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see everybody in the chat there as well. And then hope to see you guys here Friday morning for Breakfast with Boom, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a busy week considering everything with Xbox and their Dev Direct this week. So get that gaming in, hang out with us as a podcast, check out those unveilings, and we'll have a lot to talk about as well. But for those that are not just gamers, but also into horror, whether it's horror games or horror movies, definitely check out my wife's podcast Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. The link is in the chat. We'll be talking about, I'm not sure what the movie is this week, but we talked about Speak No Evil last week, which is a nice, tense, like psychological thriller. If you're into horror movies, come hang out with us on Fridays at 6. If you've seen the movie, give us your thoughts on it as well. But always a good time on Friday nights. But thanks to everybody for joining us today. Greatly appreciate it. You can find me on all social media, but Facebook. Just do a search for Fuzzy_Belvedere or just Fuzzy Belvedere, all one word, and you'll be able to find me. Thanks again.
Well, thank you so much. And again, a big thank you to everyone that tuned in. We had over 600 people watching live across Twitch, which I think we have 1 or 2 people, which is awesome. X, and of course, YouTube. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider subscribing. And if you're not, before you get on out of here, folks, hit the like button. And, again, these small little instances, they help the channel more than you can possibly imagine. And it allows us to get found in the algorithm. I think today's commentary, at least the opening conversation, was needed. It was well thought. Everyone knocked it out of the park. I cannot wait to continue our conversation because this is going to be a big week for Xbox fans. And again, don't fall for the virtual banana in the tailpipe, regardless of what these industry knuckleheads say. Xbox is winning, and you as a consumer is winning even more. That's going to do it for us here on the Xbox Lunch Break Special. For Fuzzy Belvedere, for Mav, from Fun Speculation, and myself, a big thank you for everyone that tuned in. We do greatly appreciate you taking the time. I know that today people are off. You probably slept late. Hopefully You are celebrating MLK Day as you should. And there's a lot of other things going on in the world in a big way. Celebrate how you enjoy celebrating, but do it responsibly, of course. And I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.